What's going on, creators? Just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about unconscious and adversarial people, sometimes events, sometimes places, sometimes just environments that are that same kind of energy-sucking vibe, and how you can start to transmute a lot of that, how you can start to become less reactive to it, so your own energy isn't getting completely sucked down the toilet, so that you're not spending then the present moment attacking the other person, attacking the situation, being mad at God for creating it on some level, blaming God and other people, blaming everything but your own consciousness. All these kinds of things can really start to be addressed in the present moment as they manifest. And so when I'm talking about like unconscious people, that can be kind of triggering for some people, like, oh, you're judging and condemning people. And it's like, no, it's more of an observable thing where people become hysterical. They stop using logic. You've seen a lot of that glaringly during COVID. During the, if you don't take an experimental shot, then mine won't work. It's like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. And a lot of that kind of unconsciousness, that hysteria, the parroting that can start to happen is another thing. People just running on scripts kind of plays out the same way, where it's like, I'm trying to communicate with you, but it doesn't feel like you're actually hearing me. And the type of like unconsciousness almost manifests in two separate types, where it's like you have one that's completely oblivious and unconscious to the fact that they're projecting all of their pain, suffering, bullshit and drama onto you. That's one thing, almost like you're a gigantic mirror for them, and that they can't fucking stand the reflection that you're showing them through. You're just living your life, just like not trying to fucking even bother them. And it's just like, well, you make me see part of myself I don't like, and so I want to attack and whatever. So you have that, but then you also have like just adversarial people, where it's just like they're almost loving on some level, but in the sense that it's not that they're being loved. It's that they might attack your weakest area, or something that you're self-conscious about, or you're unsure, doubting, whatever. And those kinds of inner conversations of doubt, fear, worry, concern, a lot of times those can manifest in the forms of relationships, people you're close with, and you just be around like maybe somebody at work that's just really adversarial. He just wants to fucking argue all the time, that constantly is shit testing, constantly is just you say the sky is blue and they want to argue with you about it, or water's wet, and they go, no, Mike, it's dry. Don't you know that? It's actually a misnomer. It's actually you're super dry when you get out of the shower. It's like, shut the fuck up. But there's that kind of adversarial situation. Sometimes you can get that just like manifesting through like a job, like something you're doing, where it's like you might be in a kind of a tainted state of mind. Maybe you're spiraling for whatever reason. Well, next thing you just want to, get the fuck out of the environment. You just want to go home, or just whatever. Maybe you've been drained doing something. And next thing it's like, I just got one more stop to make, and I just got to go home. I'm just so tired of like just being around people at the moment, not feeling this shit at all. And then you stop at a gas station. Next thing then it's, oh, there's a long line. The cashier doesn't give a shit about anybody's, like, whether they're in a hurry or not. It's just like they want to have conversations that last 2 minutes, going over just like, oh, well, I need number 7 and an 18, and is that a Lucky Strike lotto ticket there? Is that $5? That, and then it's just this bullshit with the lotto tickets. And it's like, oh, let me go let me look at your cigars, and your Swisher Sweets. What do you got there? Just like, everybody knows you're trying to roll a blunt with this shit, and it's gonna smell like weed regardless of what flavor you're fucking trying to diddle with. But then it's the same kind of thing. Then it starts building up within. It's just like, and you start feeling that adversarial energy start to be more and more tangible inside your own consciousness. Well, you can allow that to continue to spiral. And then next thing maybe you're just on a fucking argument. Then you fell for it. You're starting to attack, and then the thing with the unconscious people is you'll never be able to be reason with them. It's like, because they're being unreasonable. That's part of being unconscious. They're not using reason. They're not using logic. So it's like, the more you're trying to like, well, I'm right because logically, and just like, whatever, this is why. It's like, oh, if I take this electrical cord and I stick it on my tongue, I'm going to get zapped. It's like, like a statement of fact, and you're trying to like say those statements of facts and to someone who's deeply unconscious, it will not even matter, and actually the more that you're engaging on that level of like trying to be right over them, even if you are on some level, they're at this point reacting completely out of fear and hysteria, not hearing you, and everything is then a drain of energy, and you can start to feel this loop start to happen, this circle jerk of just just drama, energy draining. Meanwhile, spinning down the toilet. Oh, now we're saying things, that are not even really true, or they're just really hurtful, or you're trying to basically go to war with another person with your words before it escalates into violence, physical violence. It actually starts in mind, followed by out the mouth, followed by violence, and it's like a super obvious pattern that you can see manifesting in the world through politics, through the screen activities, through like this us versus them kind of bullshit. It's a battle of unconsciousness in a lot of different ways, that there is no winner in that situation. It's just like, how far do you want to descend into hell? That's what, battling and fighting Satan on Satan's terms. Basically, if you want to take it like at a biblical viewpoint of the situation, it's like you are not going to beat a demonic presence by attacking it, because it wants you to attack it. It wants you to fight it. It wants you to drain all your energy fucking diddling with it. Meanwhile, that hatred, that energy is being drained from you to something else. It's just like a predator and prey relationship. A lot of people think that humans in a lot of different ways are this apex thing, and compared to you have humans that'll fucking tame lions, you have humans that'll jump on a fucking crocodile's back. There's some really extreme people that have like dominated like the natural world through their courage and just going for it and their faith. But there's also a spiritual dynamic where if you are not being a good steward of your energy, your life force energy that's given to you by our Creator to express more and more life, if you are not doing that, there's lots of things psychically and metaphysically that want that shit from you. And you almost start getting into prison rules where it's like, if you are not doing a good job with your own energy, and maybe you're building up this gigantic surplus of it, you're really vibing high, if you aren't aware of a predatory presence that will try to snatch that from you and steal it from you, if you aren't mindful of what you're doing along the bridge of incidents, of realizing, yeah, you are already blessed, that ultimately there is only this oneness, but what you're actually kind of unpacking and letting go of is a lot of these satanic beliefs of separation, of fear, of danger, of fear of death. Ultimately, a lot of it boils down to a fear of death. It's like, Mike, what does that even mean? It's like, that's a whole nother stream, a whole nother, I could go on for days about how all of these things that you wouldn't think are related to a fear of death is related to a fear of death, and when it comes to like dealing with like unconsciousness, adversarial things, accusations, all of these like satanic attributes that you can experience along your path, you can either use those to strengthen yourself by realizing that Jesus already won the victory, and where is Jesus according to the New Testament? It's like, I can read it to you guys, because there's like a lot of like Christian people that don't seem to read their Bible, or just go off of like programming they gotten from some church or whatever, not listening to other people's point of view. So I think it's important to share these kinds of things, but it's like test yourself to know that you're in the faith. Let's see, this is just the first result. 2 Corinthians 13:5. I just do it out of the King James Bible for those that are like, oh, that's the only Bible that matters. Examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Jesus Christ is in you, except you be reprobates. And what I believe, reprobates, is talking about is like the reprobate mind or the carnal mind, which is mentioned in other places in Scripture. It's the same conversation and the same shit that's going on in today's world with like this what do they call that, the mass formation psychosis, the antichrist spirit, if you get into biblical thing. I think the Muslims, the jinn, and like there's some sort of force in the Muslim faith too, and I can't remember, but it really is closely related with Revelations and the book of Daniel, with this kind of delusion, this spell that the world is under. And we were all under that spell at one point until the grace of God woke us up out of it, and our desire to actually know the truth of reality, of the truth of life. Once you really start to actually care about what's true and not just what's fashionable and cosmopolitan and the fucking illusion of the world, then you can start to see it more easily. Start to see how a lot of these things are just a manifestation of unconsciousness in a lot of different ways, or that adversarial presence, which actually is almost like a shadow boxer that can actually strengthen you if you understand the rules and the nature of things. If you aren't conscious though, aware of like how powerful you are in Christ, how important your faith is, and your mindset that God already has the victory, that there is actually nothing to worry about. What you're facing is these old beliefs that there is, and that you're separate from every situation going on in your life, that there's random chaos, that there's injustice, and there's just danger, there's fear, all this kinds of stuff. And to the people that are under that spell, not realizing what you impress into awareness gets externalized onto the screen of space and in the events of your life. Well, then you start going down this like undesirable path where it's just like hell becomes more and more manifest with, for one, in your consciousness, but then also outside of you in the form of more adversarial events, more unconsciousness. As you become more unconscious and adversarial, that inner conversation, those inner narratives, that inner that inner speech that you're actually unwittingly planting into awareness, especially if it's tied in with the energy of your emotions, well, it's just a matter of time before what you don't want comes back to meet you and confront you in the form of a relationship issue, a problem at work, a person just being fucking retardedly adversarial. It's just like all of these things have a spiritual component, and not realizing that can actually be a really detrimental thing, because then you're unaware that, hey, I'm being drained of energy by a psychic predator. There's a mind virus or whatever you want to call this phenomenon, but like it's noticeable and testable, and you can see it in your own life, and so it's like more you become aware of it, the more you can be like, oh, I'm getting fucking drained by some demonic belief. A lot of times, it tricks you into believing the outer illusion, when the actual target is your perception, and not only your perception, but then your expectation of a quote-unquote future that's never going to manifest outside of the present moment. So it's like the trick is in mind, and that's where you get preyed upon, is in your consciousness, and that's where you get drained. That's where a lot of this fucking shit, where you can have like a event that happens on the outside, some blow up argument with like somebody at work, or your spouse, or your husband, or your wife, or your child, or whatever. Oh, my, kids are precious and everything. And it's like, yeah, I get it, but if you're around, if you're raising kids, sometimes you're going to have some shit going on that needs corrected, or nipped in the bud, or whatever, and to pretend like that, it's like that we're not on the same page. And it's like, until you realize that more and more so, though, that the outer harmony is a direct reflection of inner harmony, that the outer getting drained is a result of inner psychic bullshit going on, that you can start to change by first becoming aware, second by becoming still, becoming more in alignment with who you are in Christ, which is spirit, and that spirit is within. And as you start to become more and more still, and you start to connect with awareness, the observer of the thoughts, the presence that's observing and watching, that is not the thoughts, but it's like you're watching it on a theater screen. Well, when you're sitting in the theater watching what's coming in and out, then you can start to choose to like, now I got a bunch of this shit going on. I got a bunch of stories, and I'm now telling myself that feel awful, that feel draining, that feel whatever. fearful, that's making an us versus them. That's like, oh, I'm not connected with this person. This is the bad man. This is the evil one. This is it, and it's like they need to be destroyed. When you start getting into those kinds of mindsets, it's at that point when you're still, start asking infinite intelligence for a different way to look at it. Try to ask for a higher perspective, because whatever you ask for, believe, and you'll receive. That's a factual statement that Jesus made, that you can test for yourself, and you're already doing this. You're always asking, believing, and receiving in consciousness. Some people are unconsciously asking for what they don't want and receiving that as a curse. And some are becoming more conscious of this interactivity and using it for a blessing. The people in the law of assumption crowd, even the law of attraction, the metaphysics, that are actively like renewing your mind, which is a biblical concept that Christian people should be. Hey, this is something to do. It's like. And that's one of the problems I get into with like super religious people. It's just like there is no answers, because it doesn't seem like anybody's actually doing something. It's like if I were to say, for example, how do you play that lick on the guitar to somebody that's supposed to be a fellow guitar player, and they go, look it up on YouTube, read your Bible, read a help manual. It's like, but I'm asking you. It's like you just did it. Or you didn't do it. It's like, but it's like you get that kind of response that's like vague, like super vague, mainly because they don't fucking know either. So it's like, but all of that kind of drama starts leading you to the actual teacher, which is within you, which you can start to actually work on that dynamic. And as you become more and more capable of becoming still and present, the ability to ask infinite intelligence for help and guidance and a different way to look at it, is the same repeatable pattern every single time. You become still, these thoughts that are racing start to come into awareness. Then you ask God for a different way to look at it. You might get a couple scripts and things that you're running that are maybe attack thoughts or whatever. And it's like that's not from God. That's not from infinite intelligence. That's probably still a satanic belief, actually. Maybe a part of the ego mind or whatever that's just racing. Well, the more that you become still, realizing that the time in itself is an illusion. So it's like God is always in the eternal now, the present moment. And so when you ask, even before you ask, God already knows what you're asking. So it's like realizing that this is all part of a perfect process is very vitally important to maintaining your energy and not becoming drained and despairing and hopeless and attacking another person, letting your relationships go to shit because of unconsciousness and hysteria, and people that are just under this adversarial kind of like whatever, and like I said, there's almost like two types in that kind of adversarial unconsciousness. One which is kind of helpful, where it's like they're attacking your weakness so you can start strengthening your own self. If they're saying something true that is a true weakness, you can start to use it to level up your own consciousness. Say it's like, for example, when I was like a drunk and like getting arrested and all this type of shit, if someone were to come up to me and call me like a fucking drunk loser that was doing this and that, and it's like, yeah, that might be a painful attack, but it's not untrue. It's like, yeah, I mean, that is kind of true. I'm guilty of doing that. I am kind of dropping the ball on that. And it's like, you can then level up in the sense where it's like, okay, you know what, fuck that person. I ain't gonna, and use it as fuel to either quit with that weakness, or to strengthen yourself, or to just, either that, or double down and do it more. It's like ultimately the only choices you have. You're gonna keep doing it, double down and do it even more extreme, or you're just gonna let it go. Same thing when it comes to unconscious people. If you're able to and sometimes it's an energy thing. It's not even like and what I mean by that, maybe it's better to say it out like this, is like you could be on a vibing super high, and just like maybe you just had a lot of fun, a lot of joy, a lot of gratitude, and your mind's not filled with a bunch of fear, not filled with worries and concerns for tomorrow, but you're really present, and you're like almost just glowing with energy, because it's just so, the life force energy is just fucking palpable in your presence. Well, to somebody else that is on a different level, that could almost be like a short circuit or something, where it's just like your energy's here, theirs is there, and there's got to be a balance. And so it's like, boom, there's a big blow up, and then it's like you're both just like that, and I feel like that on some level is almost like a trick. But, it is what it is. But becoming aware that there is an adversarial entity that's predatory that exists in the metaphysical is ultimately very important to transmute it by starving it. For one, you don't just continuously feed this life force energy to a predator that's preying off of it. It's like, oh, I'm in a swamp filled with mosquitoes, and let's just take my shirt off and just get drained of all my blood and get my malaria and all this shit. It's like, stop acting like a prey. It's like, become aware, become conscious of the fact that you're being fucking consumed, and that if you fall for the trick, there is no winner. It's a self-destructing, self-sabotaging spiral that spirals down and drains you of your life, drains you of your energy, drains you of and it puts up a wall between you and your creator, and a barrier, which you can start to tear that down and start to let that shit go by becoming aware of it, by becoming aware of an unconscious thing. But it's like the same thing where people have this this false sense of naivete about creation, and it's like, Mike, how can you say that there's a predatory metaphysical thing that is actively trying to drain your energy and suck you psychically dry? And it's like, well, go out into the woods in some parts of the country. It's like California, for example, has gigantic mountain lions or whatever. And a lot of times you can hear people around here. There's not really a big predatory animal, a coyote, they can be kind of bigger than you would think. I had one actually came up to I have French doors, so it's glass and shit, and I have cats that are outside. I don't know if I had chickens at the time. I might not have had chickens at the time, but I was in another part of I have a mud room or whatever. We converted into a garden room where we can grow plants and stuff that overlooks outside by the French doors, and we were in that room. Me and my wife, and it looked like a mangy dog, but it was probably a little over knee high, enough it would kill your cats, kill your chickens. Might be dangerous to a person if they got maybe a little bit bigger, or you're dealing with a pussy human or a child or something like that. That might be a fucked up situation. But you're talking like a bear, like a 600-pound predatory animal. It's really naive to think that I hear that from all these bleeding heart people. It's like, well, they attacked because they got confused. They didn't actually mean to eat the person. They were just, and they make some excuse. And it's like, why do you think humans don't taste good to some other animal? It's that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And it comes from a lot from people that live in cities that aren't around animals, that have personified and Disneyfied all these animals. Oh, they're so majestic. And it's yeah, on some level, there is an energy to nature and animals that's soothing and relaxing and peaceful. But there's also an element that's prison-like and violent and aggressive. And it's with chickens, it's they will attack each other. If there's a new bird that gets introduced to the mix, for example, they will fucking attack it. They'll try to rape it. They'll be oh, Mike, you don't know what it looks a lot like rapey behavior to me, where they jump on the back of the other one, push their face down into the dirt, shuffle around their fucking back feathers and rip the fucking feathers out of the back of the other one. I mean, it's not hey, I love you, bye. It's it's a dominance thing, and it's an act of violence. It's not anything other than that. But it's the same kind of mentality of oh, I'm gonna go on a hike in the California woods or whatever, where there's 200-pound mountain lions, and just feel untouchable. It's the same kind of mentality of people thinking that they're at the apex of the metaphysical kind of thing, and meanwhile they're getting psychically drained all the time. They're believing thoughts that aren't real. They're believing lies and propaganda that's just puts them like a farm animal to be fucking but that's a whole another tangent. But it's just, but it's knowing that there's a 200-pound mountain lion that could exist on this trail. It's do you want to go down it, knowing that you could be confronted with that? And it's I'll fight it off, Mike, I'm a fucking tough guy. It's good. I would pay to see that. I would pay to watch you try to do that. I would love to see that. I'd love to see you fucking try. Because the reality is that, yeah, there's some like predatory animals, like maybe a mountain lion where it's like maybe 60 pounds, 100 pounds, where it's like, maybe if you had a stick. I seen a video of a guy beating off not beaten off, but like basically this mountain lion was attacking his dog, and like that it was a smaller mountain lion where it's like it wasn't too much bigger than the dog, and the guy took a stick, and I wish I could pull that up actually, because this guy beat the fuck out of this mountain lion with this like stick, and that thing didn't want to let go of that dog, and he was hitting it hard. I mean, he was hitting it like swinging for the fences hard, just boom, boom, just smacking it right in the side of the face, temple, the top of the head, and all this shit to get it to come off of his dog. And it took a serious ass whooping for that mountain lion to let go of that dog and concede defeat and take off. But like and that was like again, that's probably like a smaller one, but they can get gigantic. I mean, 200-pound cat. Plus animals have like a lot more strength than you would think for some reason. And it's like even a small, like even like a raccoon. It's like I was riding my bike through town one day, and there's this big raccoon that just like emerged, and I was like riding my bike by it. I thought it would just like not care or whatever, but I'm like, I wouldn't say super close to it, but within like 4 or 5 feet, it was in the grass by the road, and I was in the road, and it just like was like kind of doing its own thing. It didn't really notice I was there. Then it did notice I was there, and then its reaction was attack, and it just got like fucking puffy and like and just like intense, was like attacking, and like it didn't charge me or anything, but it was like kind of striking as I like rode by, and it's just like Jesus, I get it's a small like raccoon, but even in that situation, it's like you don't want to fuck with it, because I mean it would still scratch you and bite you. It wouldn't kill you obviously, but and you probably kick it a couple times and it would run off, but it's like still, I mean, do you want to get a raccoon injury? God knows what the fuck. It digs through trash and shit. It's like, do you want to have that in your body, in an open wound? Same type of thing. But, it's like becoming aware of these like potential things at least gets you in the right game. Because so many people don't even realize what game they're playing, which is like part of the unconsciousness on something, but also part of the adversarial thing is like people are so brainwashed by the Matrix that they are like adversarial because they believe things and they don't realize they're believing shit from liars. It's like, oh my, how dare you say that? And it's like, I've watched, since like I was a kid, teenage years, and 9/11 happened, and then it's just been this train wreck ever since, where you see the same thing, lying, doubling down on lies, repeating it over and over again, not making any sense, doing stupid shit. It's like, you drive around the United States, for example, and it's like there's all this fucking shit going on, and meanwhile you have this fucking mafia style government that's just like, oh, well, let's just instead of like investing on the like any type of improvement for our citizens that are actually paying this stuff, let's just send a couple billion over to Ukraine so we can have like some mafia gangster war. It's like, what? It's like I've seen the complete incompetence of the government, a lot of these institutions, for like 20 years, and so it's like for people that now have like woken up through COVID, that have seen like, oh, they were full of shit every step of the way. Why do they think that they have any type of like sway, like any type of like authority? It's like, I don't believe liars. I don't trust them. I don't listen to them. I don't put them on pedestals. I put them actually low, and it's like, now you have people that are like not, but just completely buying into a lot of the lying because they've seen the scale of it and they just see how fucking stupid it is, and they go, oh yeah, I don't trust them at all. And it's like, but during COVID, they didn't realize that they were untrustworthy, so they kind of went on the ride for a while before they realized, like, this is a crazy train. Well, for me, it's like, okay, now you see that it's a crazy train. Well, then back that up through like 2 or 3 years, whenever COVID started, it's like, yeah, I already knew it was a crazy train. So it's like, you can kind of see it's like, we're not that much different. It's just like dealing with these adversarial people because they believe the shit still. that's different than like unconscious people that are just like in a lot of ways just like embodying like a demonic presence that are oh, Mike, you're judging people? Are you judging? Are you condemning people? Are you being a bad man? And it's like, by the fruit of what they're doing, the fruit that they're doing is bullshit. And they know it. Everybody knows it. And it's ignorant and borderline retarded if you're not catching on, and you almost fucking deserve what happens to you. What happens in the unconsciousness is, like I said, a self-destruction death cycle. Whether that death is in the sense of an energy drain, a slow decay, same shit. It's still an act of like war on some level that, the result is like there is not really a winner. What do you mean? Well, 500 people tried to climb that hill and they fucking shot 700 people over here and 1,000 people died over here, but we won. It's like, well, what did you win? Well, we stood on top of the hill for 3 weeks and then we left. It's like, what? What are you doing? And it's like, is that what winning a war is? It's like, I got that way with drinking contests. I mean, like, if you were in my prime of drinking, I can guarantee you no one's winning that. It's like, I will drink myself to death before I let you win. I had a drinking contest with this dude one time, and we drank a half gallon of vodka between the two of us. Literally what happened, we both pissed ourselves that night. I didn't remember really much of anything after like winning. Like, basically it was like the last like couple shots. This is what I remember. The last couple shots, boom, put it down. My buddy, he takes one, puts it down. We basically just finished this damn thing off, and he just pukes it back up. I win. I fucking pass out, piss myself, and fucking wake up the next day drunker than hell still. And I felt like awful. I was like surprised I didn't fucking end up in the hospital. Maybe I did die or something. I ended up in some weird multiverse fucking reality, and could have been, who knows. But like, with that being said, I think I'm gonna bounce. So I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing. Hopefully that was like on some level helpful. That was my intent. That was helpful. But like, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate your spiritual support and your physical support. Donation link in the description. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kind comments that goes along with some of those donations and acts of like support and everything. I appreciate it. I read it. It's very heartfelt. Thank you. Love you. Appreciate it. Tried to do these for strengthening this community of humans, and the and everything. So thanks for your attention. Hope you put it in practice and see a benefit. And with that, I think I'm about. So thanks again, and God bless.